back, everyone, to the AOS Crowd, your YouTube channel all about competitive Age of Sigmar. So, we're back again, me and Quinn.
Hell yeah.
Whose turn was it for a team event this time?
Is it me?
I think it's you. I think it's you. So, Quinn, what event did you go to recently?
So, I went to the Alpine Cup NRW team event, hosted by the Alpine Cup, who are also co-organizers of this year's Age Sigmar Worlds 2025, held in Austria. They are relatively new to organizing AOS events outside of Austria, so this event wasn't as densely populated as one might have hoped. But we did get a sneak preview of the terrain that will be used at Worlds, which was pretty hype.
Is it good?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
I enjoyed it. But yeah, the event took place 2 weeks ago now in North Rhine-Westphalia in Germany, in a small town called Schmalenberg. Nobody knows where that's at. It's near Dortmund, somewhere in the wilds there. It was coupled with a 40k teams event and a 40k singles event. The singles event ran earlier in the week, and the teams event took place the same time as the AOS event. The Alpine Cup usually organizes huge 40k events all around Austria and Europe, and this was no exception. I think it was a 200-player team tournament, so
nice.
Pretty decent. My team that attended.
How many people was the team event?
Unfortunately, because there wasn't enough publicity around the event, I think, so only a small number of teams signed up.
Okay.
Even though it was just 6 teams in total, similar to the last event we covered. The player density of good players just as high as as any other team event in Central Europe, really.
That's great for build up to Worlds though, right? Particularly for you guys. Was it 4-person, 5-person?
It was a 5-person team event.
Okay.
And I was asked by the organizer to jump in to fill the final spot for teams, and I gladly stepped up. And I got together all of my Snake Eye Snuffler friends, who are similar to Team Lit, a transnational German-speaking club, as you will. All just people who hang out together and like to play Warhammer. So the team consisted of myself as a captain. I did run Beck, a somewhat familiar list. Greg ran it at Brotherhood. It was 21 Morbheg Knights. Shorin, a Cardinal, a Battlecroll Herald. But instead of 20 Crypt Guard, I went with 10 Crypt Guard, 10 Beast Flayers.
Yeah, I really like Beast Flayers at the moment in that list. Just to give Usherin a little bit of versatility if monsters do come in. Having played a few games against them now, you find your first point of contact has to be the Beast Flayers, just so you're not losing multiple sets of turns of damage later on.
Yeah. So and also the way we wanted to play and pair it also worked out in our favor because we had the Beast Flayers in there. It makes the list. It turns the list into an all takers type build, and also since you're splitting a single unit of 20 Crypt Guard, you also get the additional benefit of rolling one more die when going for a Rousing Oration, for example.
It also just gives you another point of versatility with flanks, right? You've got a unit of 3 Morbhegs that can just do it without having to run. But then you've got the guaranteed auto 6 on a small unit rather than trying to commit a 6 to a flank or 20 crypt guard. So
exactly, yeah. You're allowed to castle up a bit more, and of course more units, more flexibility. I really rate that list. Also because it's not dependent on like taking Forbidden Power or Morbid Conjuration or anything. You're best set up with the Flesh Eater Court's endless spells and manifestations because they
Barricade's
play.
no joke. Yeah.
I freaking love the Barricade. 10 out of 10 spell. But yeah, as I was saying, myself as a captain, then Dario from Team Germany, or former Team Germany, I should say, who was running Soulblight with 70 wolves, Belladama, and Manfred, and a bit of chaff, which is
all those wolves with Manfred's fucking redeploy.
Yeah.
No thanks.
You're traumatized.
It's really good.
Especially in the hands of a super capable player like Dario. Originally, in the build-up to the event, we weren't necessarily sure what setup we were going to run. We were just sure that we wanted to include a couple of lists that would be able to take more diverse matchups. But I'll get into that a bit later. We had Jan on the team, who is a close friend of Dario's and mine, and he ran Slaves to Darkness, just the classic 10 Chosen, Gaunt Summoner, Be'lakor, 2 units of 3 Varangard. Spicy, different.
I quite like them in threes, it just gives you multiple threats, and like the turn you need to, you just double activate.
Yeah. And they're still crazy stupid good. Like,
it's like you can put them on flanks. No one's going to risk taking a 9-inch counter charge to deny you flanks, because those Vanguard are going to kill you.
Yep. 100%. Then next up we had Lucas, who is a new-ish member of the squad. He took Stormcast Eternals with a bit of a mixed bag type list. Krondus, 6 Prosecutors, 6 Long Strikes, 6 Paladors. The works, basically. And then finally, Andreas, who last minute was put on Seraphon, and he took a set of, it was Croak, a Slan, 2 units of 10, Saurus Guard, a Solar Basti, a Snake Basti, and the Saviors of Cinderfall, which is a pretty superb list, especially considering that he also took Primal, so the Bastillodons basically do not die.
All of the healing.
Yes.
Yes.
And yeah, that list, super freaking obnoxious. In the build up to the event, we were just coming off the club championships, and we found out that same weekend that we were going to be going to the Alpine Cup, and we were discussing what we wanted to take. Originally, Dario was bent on that we should be taking slaves, and that because he was running them at the club championship quite successfully, I might add, he was going to play them himself. But we had a couple of unknowns within the team, because Lucas is rather new to the hobby, put it that way. His army selection wasn't that diverse, and he hadn't been playing all that much at team events. So the armies that he had available was Stormcast and Sons of Behemoth, which were battle ready, painted, just ready to go in general. He was working on his Iron Jaws at the time, and wasn't quite sure if he would get them done for the event. So similar to the club championships, we were just setting him on to the army he was playing there, Stormcast Eternals. And that basically left Andreas and Jan, who were undecided. Jan was playing Flesh Eater Courts at the club championships, but because I outperformed him with Feck, we decided that I would be taking FEC and that he had to find an alternative.
Nice.
Looking at team composition, of course, you see you've got Slaves to Darkness, you've got Stormcast Eternals, you've got Flesh Eater Corpse, none of which really prefer to play the wide battle plans, like a Scorched Earth, like a Close to the Chest. It's all very condensed and doesn't necessarily like to split up a bit. So at that point, we decided that for battle plan sensitivity, he wouldn't be taking Fyreslayers or Nurgle, because, of course, that would give us so much coverage on the low objective battle plans, but very limited option for the 6s, the 8s, etc., etc. So in the end, we switched him to Slaves, and Dario took Soulblight to fill the gap of we need someone to play multiple objectives, etc., etc., and sort of fill that gap for the team. And Andreas, as a Stormcast Eternal main, was really bummed out that we had given Stormcast to someone else, but I had told him 2 weeks before the club championship commenced that we need to take Seraphon in the team, and that I think that Seraphon are one of the most bent armies at the minute, especially with Croak just lasering things into the ground. The Mortal... Yeah.
Yeah.
It's...
Procs are really good in the meta as well, with all this elite infantry.
Yeah.
So,
it's...
like Chosen, fucking hate them. Beasts of Chaos, fucking hate them.
Yeah. They wipe the floor with a lot of, like, the top tier elite infantry armies.
Yeah, it's a really solid pick.
But the issue was that Dario wasn't necessarily convinced, and just chatting about it and trying to show him what the deal was after the club championships, him being the captain of a team, which included Seraphon, after that he realized, yeah, we should be taking Seraphon. It's a superb list.
Yeah.
And that's how the team came together, basically. Ahead of the event, we knew who our opponents were. Basically, there was a team from Belgium, the Green Knight Brotherhood, I believe they're called, TGK Brotherhood. They're Belgian-Dutch combination of team. An Italian team called La Fondazione. They arrived with their 40k equivalent team, and I think they had the same results in the end, but not to take anything away from that for the time being. Then we had the Mini Paradise guys, very close friends of ours who organized the club championships, the Raccoon Rumble, and numerous like larger scale team events in Germany. They're also the hosts of the Tabletop League that we have, which is a 3-man team type deal that runs across an entire year, across an entire season basically, and records the games of those that perform well. Then Team Germany support and Team Germany for both.
Okay, so Toby,
yes.
Okay.
And basically the Germany support squad, which is just as scary as the main deal.
Yeah, because Team Germany are going through a bit of a transition at the moment as well, aren't they? They've got a lot of new blood, which is great to see, and Toby's a phenomenal player and phenomenal mind within AOS, so it's always interesting to see what he's getting up to and the way he is going to build his team, if that's the way to put it. So I look forward to seeing what they particularly do, not just at this event, but at Worlds in general in 2 months' time.
Really looking forward to it. But of course, different team event, different setting. We're here to kick ass, take names. Going into the event, I think many were considering us and Team Germany to be the favorites for first place. And I think we went in with high hopes, rightfully so. But yeah, something we I do have to mention beforehand, which is one of the minor grievances I have with the event overall, is that the organization for BCP was really limited because the event was set up as a six-team event, which means that you play one team or every round. There's no duplications. You know when you're going to play which team, what the battle plans are, etc., etc., which is an issue that was brought up to me as being one of the jump-in teams to fill the slots. And my suggestion was to just go that way, pair everything beforehand so that there's no issues whatsoever. But the organization decided to go against that, and they decided to just do Swiss pairings,
Right.
which then led to some awkwardness on day 2. But
Okay.
I'm already pushing it.
So, should we get into the games?
Yes,
Round
sir.
one.
Round 1.
Was it Germany?
No, it wasn't Germany. We played TGK Brotherhood.
The lads from Belgium and Holland.
Yes, wonderful bunch of guys. Took the 5 to 6 hour car trip to get to the event, and it wasn't fun. They got us round 1. We were merciless. We had a pretty successful pairing where we got Slaves to Darkness into Sons of Behemoth, then Flesh Eater Courts into Sylvaneth. We had our Stormcast Eternals run into Iron Jaws. Unfortunately, we had our Seraphon go into Lumineth, and Dario with his wolves played against Nurgle. Overall, I was pretty happy with the pairings, and the results spoke for themselves. I played Richie. I've played him before when Worlds first came to Amsterdam. He was my opponent in the second round of singles. We met at the bottom table because I lost round 1 pretty hard. He did as well. He didn't enjoy my Slaanesh then. And he didn't enjoy my Flesh Eater Courts now. We were playing the Vice. I won the roll-off. I had to play first. He put Alariel down, Belthanos, the entire shebang. And it was not good. Basically, I was able to keep him so contained to the back objectives and the back of the board. I was able to box him in, destroy the trees once Alariel dropped, so he couldn't bring her back, and I locked out much of his teleportation that way. That in the end, it ended up a 48-8 for me.
Wow, that's big swing in the Vice.
Yes, and considering the battle plan, I think it was a mispairing on their part, but that was because they put Richie down as a defender and he chose me. Because out of all of the armies that they had, with Nurgle, with Sons of Behemoth, etc., he felt like he was the one who was going to be able to take me on and keep the score at least close, especially on a battle plan like the Vice, where if you leave a point unattended until you brawl in the middle, he can try and attempt to outscore me if I get unattentive and leave an objective open. But this is where the split of units with the Beast Flayers and the Crypt Guard did a number, and I was able to basically hold him off all of the points, which in turn led to the result that I have mentioned before. So solid 20-0 start for us. We're done in maybe 1.5 hours of game time. Same with the Sons of Behemoth table. That was a 19-1, I believe, because one Gargan didn't quite die in a single activation of the Chosen. Yeah, overall, I think that round went rather positive. We won the Seraphon matchup 11-9 against Lumineth. This was Andreas's first game with Seraphon of the edition, so kudos to him. He did a good job. And yeah, Dario won, I think, 13-7, and Lucas played 9-11, I believe. It was the only loss that round, but he said that it was fine against Iron Jaws. Stormcast Eternals do not necessarily have the overall damage to outpunch the Iron Jaws and lift them completely, but he did all he could, and apparently there were some bad dice, but doesn't necessarily matter. We won round one. We capped. We smashed.
Yeah. Win and lose as a team. Round win. All that matters.
Yeah. Yes.
So, big round one.
Big round one.
So you capped. Did cap.
Yes. We capped.
So my prediction is round two is Germany.
Wrong.
Wrong.
Because it's random pairings. Team Germany played Team Germany support in round one, and Team Germany only beat Team Germany support by 10 points total.
Okay, so no cap for Germany.
No cap for Germany, but the other German team, the Mini Paradise guys, completely crushed La Fondazione, and those were the guys we were up against next. So Mini Paradise, lovely bunch of guys, Salo, Eloy, Manu, and of course everyone else who I cannot mention off the top of my head. I'm sorry, guys, but I love just as much anyway. Were our opponents for round two. They had pretty tough lists. They were running a FEC list pretty similar to what I was running, but with a couple of horrors mixed in. They had 18 Storm Fiends, Grey Seer, 30 Clan Rats, 12 Vanguard, Bellacore.
Yeah, seems good.
IDK, and who was the final one? Stormcast Eternals, right. And during the pairing process, I was pretty set on using Seraphon on as a defender on 6 points. On I think it was Feral Foray, just to solve the rest of the Matrix, because none of the other guys necessarily wanted to play, or he didn't want to play Star Strike, and he didn't want to play Focal Points, because we couldn't guarantee that he would be landing on Focal Points, because it was a handout.
You have to get rejected, yeah.
Yes. So
yeah, makes sense.
In the end, we decided that that would be the best course of action to take. Dario wasn't too happy about it. He was like, you do whatever you want. I don't care. If we lose this, it's on you. And I was like, okay, sure. But the pairings went well overall. We got Dario into the 18 Storm Fiends list with Soulblight, which is really funny to watch because it's just dogs and rats. And they just stand there and they do nothing for 5 turns.
Yeah.
It's perfect. Literally perfect. No better matchup has ever existed in my mind. We got our Seraphon into their Stormcast, which was something that we actually really wanted, because Stormcast do struggle, especially with the list he was running, which was very prosecutor heavy. Into the Seraphon list, it's just rough. And yeah, I myself played against Ideneth Deepkin on Focal Points, which is interesting considering the list he was running was 50 Reavers and 3 Ishlin, 6 Ishlin, Sigmar, Storm Eidolon, and Soulscryer.
Yeah.
I'll get into that.
It's just rend one, right? Like, so many objectives you can stand on.
And it's all in the middle. You can't get onto one of the objectives out of the deep strike without it being a home objective. And of course, that only is valuable if you have both.
Yeah.
We had a lovely set of pairings for the second half, which was our Stormcast Eternals into the 12 Varangard on Star Strike. There is a funny picture that I will put on screen right now, which is 12 Varangard standing in one forest. And that's it. That's all he did. 12 Varangard in a forest. Yeah. And the final table was our Slaves to Darkness versus their Feck. And yeah, back to my game. I played Focal Points against Patrick. He's a lovely, lovely gentleman. His brother also plays Warhammer Age of Sigmar. They're known as the Koch brothers. They're a super cool duo. I like them a lot. It's always a good time when we chat at events and talk about how broken some armies can be. And in this case, I was able to demonstrate how insanely powerful Flesh Eater Courts are. Penny mentioned that up until that point, he had played Focal Points 8 times and lost every single one. So this was the pairing he didn't necessarily want on a battle plan he absolutely hated, and rightfully so. I basically, he wanted to roll off. He gave away first. I decided to play it safe. Took a couple of flanks, and yeah, decided to see where we were going from there. He then played more defensively, decided to drop a couple of Reavers on the sides, and tried to take a cheeky shot at the Beast Flayers, which didn't really play out because they were able to redeploy into a forest. And from then on out, it basically turned into a slow grind fest where I was able to push at certain points to deny him a couple of battle tactics. For example, making a large countercharge with one unit of Morbheg Knights to try and delete one of the Ishlan Guard, which didn't necessarily pan out, but they were stuck in combat and gave me an easy Slay the Entourage later on. And yeah. Overall, I think that matchup was highly stacked in my favor. The battle plan is just a green solid, and as he had already mentioned, the win rate for IDK on that battle plan is very low, especially with the skirmishy type list. He wants to play 6 objectives, and he can't necessarily do that if all the points are in the middle. Especially against Feck, where it's just, okay, your one rend doesn't bother me at all. It's like playing Starfawn, but busted. Yeah. Who needs recursion?
Far quicker than you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, recursion's fine.
It's fine. 100%. And also just the Reavers, they're literally leaves in the wind. If a unit of Morbheg Knights touches them, they die. There's nothing really you can do about that. In the end, it was a 46-21. He was able to score a couple of battle tactics all the way through. It was super solidly played by him. I myself dropped one? Yeah, I dropped one because he was able to take away a Marked for the Grave or Inevitable Demise or whatever the death battle tactic is called, or have to kill a specific unit.
Yeah, that's Marked for the Grave, isn't it?
Yeah. But overall, a very enjoyable game, and overall, we did win the round with 4 out of 5 games. The only loss was our Stormcast Eternals against the 12 Varangard, because the Star Strike objective... Yeah. They sat in a wood. The Star Strike objective landed right in front of the feet of the Varangard. They stuck their little toe out. They kept that objective for the first 2 turns. Because there was no commitment possible by the Stormcast player. Then, as the other objectives dropped, of course, a bit more play, but overall, I think that he was our sacrifice that round. Nobody wanted to play 12 Varangard in 1 drop. It's insane.
No.
Slaves to Darkness won against Feck. Was closer than our Slaves to Darkness player would like to admit. Because
What scenario?
Star Strike as well. One of the stars landed on a terrain feature right in front of the entire Morbheg Knight conflagration, and the Slaves to Darkness basically had to fight through all of them to even lay a claim on the objective. But in the end, he was able to cheekily take out a couple of units. Of course, the hero is always important Feck, and then was able to decide the round that way. Our Seraphon Stormcast matchup, also pretty okay. Ended up, I think, at 12-8 or 11-9. I'm not quite sure, but was what he was hoping for. It was what I was able to guarantee him with that type of pairing. And Dario, with his Dire Wolves, outscored and outplayed the Skaven Fleshmeld Menagerie insane build. I hate it. It's the worst.
Yeah, the 1-drop fiends. Yeah, not fun. 2-0. Living your best life.
Didn't cap that round, but
Didn't cap.
Yeah. This
So
lines us up.
The final.
3rd time's the charm, Phil.
3rd time.
Who did we play round 3?
Team Germany. It's gotta be.
Correct, Demento. They played
round 5.
Yes. The round 5, played in round 3, the final of the weekend. And that basically meant that this was going to be our hardest matchup of the day, the final game of the day. Everybody's a bit knackered, everybody's a bit cranky. So, in pairing against Toby, you always have to start with the mind games a bit. Because Toby, of course, a very intelligent, very thorough person, very good in pairings, as I will allude to in the Club Championship video, which will be recorded sometime in the future. But pairing went all right. We had 3 matches we had down as yellows, but winnable. We had 1 sacrificial matchup, and we had 1 which was going to be close in either case. It's a 12-8 or an 8-12 at max in either direction. So we had our Slaves to Darkness into Night Haunt. We had our Soulblight Gravelords into Khorne. We had Stormcast Eternals, Mirror, and finally, let me get this wrong. Oh God.
Well, it's you.
Well, I played against Seraphon. That was the sacrifice. And then finally, our Seraphon played against... Who did he play?
Toby.
No, Toby played Stormcast Eternals for the event. Who was it? Oh, Colin. 18 Storm Fiends, 1 drop. I'll briefly gloss over my match. I played Micha. You might know him from our Luxembourg video. He is a very, very good 40k player and transitioned to AOS at the beginning of last year. He's now part of Team Germany. Super cool dude. Super intelligent, super smart at the game, and a fiend with Seraphon. And knowing that I was a sacrificial matchup, I had to take certain risks. They didn't play out at all. I lost Ushiran turn 2 In my second turn,
Yeah,
that
so
was rather unfortunate. But in the end, it did end up being a high win for Seraphon. Not necessarily good for a team composition type view, but somebody had to play them. And in this case, it was good practice for me to go against a red on a battle plan that I didn't necessarily like with Battle for the Pass. And yeah, the other rounds went as expected. The Stormcast Eternal Mirror could have flipped either way, depending on when Krondus went and when Ionis died. But in this case, Dice and, of course, player experience favored Toby in comparison to Lucas. The one-drop Storm Fiends versus Seraphon was an interesting matchup for both of them to play it, and I think they both enjoyed the round very much, but it was a close game in favor of the Storm Fiends. I think it was a 14-6 or something of the sort. Dario unfortunately lost the Khorne game, the Soul Blight into Khorne game, because of a couple of small positioning, I think, setup issues he mentioned, but I don't have the whole picture to describe it. And our Night Haunt, the Slaves matchup into Night Haunt, of course, favorable for Slaves to Darkness, but in the end, a 9-inch a 9-inch rerollable charge on 3d6 isn't something that always goes off. He rolled an 8 twice, so that basically turned the possible like 18-2, 19-1 into a 14-6, I believe it was. But yeah, overall a round from which you come away and learn a lot. In the pairings process, I think we made the wrong decision to put Seraphon down as a defender in the second round on Battle for the Pass. We should have put down Flesh Eater Courts and then have either the Seraphon attack or the Slaves to Darkness. In that case, they would have chosen the Mirror, which then meant that Seraphon would have played Shifting. It's a bit convoluted, and the pairing process isn't necessarily all that clear in that case. But there are certain mistakes that we made that I'm well aware of and that I am eager to iron out for Brothers War, which is the next event that I'm attending.
But rumors are it's a hard event.
Maybe. I'm not sure. There's a couple of these. Half a dozen of the other. 6 of one.
I think they will change their names today. They didn't want them.
Huh. Because they're not 6 anymore.
No. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, lost to Germany. Game 3.
Womp womp. It's what happens. I mean, it was our hardest expected round overall.
Yeah.
I think we were the ones who had the highest chance or the highest possibility of beating Team Germany at the event. Mm-hmm. Which of course is a huge sort of weight to be having on your shoulders going into a small closed ring event with everyone being expected to punch much above their weight to be even contenders for anything. Yeah. But yeah, 2-1 after day 1. Had a nice relaxing evening at the Airbnb. At that point, we did realize, however, that the BCP issues would have led to some fuckery.
Right.
Because at this point, the Swiss matrix was breaking down, and we had redraws and replays, basically, where Team Germany was playing the Mini Paradise guys, and we were playing the Belgians again because they had won the third round on the day before, and were the only ones that were like able to be matched with us without having the rest of the pairings screw over, basically. All of the captains were asked to make a decision on this. We voted, and we decided that it would be best if we just kept the pairings as is. We would be playing TGK Brotherhood again for the second day.
That's so odd.
Yeah. I suppose it's just a setup thing that needs to be considered with such small team events. And this is a point of grievance that I have raised with the organizers, where if it's just 6 teams, I think pre-drawing rounds is the only way where you can guarantee that there's no duplications in round matchups.
Yeah,
but
it's easy to do.
Yeah, it takes away a lot of the hassle because it did cost the organizers and the captains a little bit of time and energy to get everything sorted, of course.
Yeah.
But afterwards, we basically decided that for round 4 we would be playing by the BCP pairings, and we played TGK Brotherhood again. Of course, as I've already mentioned, a wonderful bunch of lads, and pairing for the second round, or for the second time, was already a blast because we already had our opponents once. We knew them, we had a cracking time round 1, so we were ready to re-traumatize them. So the pairing went pretty well. I got to play against Illumina Thromalords on Jaws of Galay. I did play it very smart and decided to only score 4 points turn 1. Gave it away, or I won prio, gave it away. He scored 10, I scored 4, and I dictated the rest of the game's flow. Because I won the double, took off 80% of his army. He scored 1 more tactic, and then that was basically it.
Yeah, Jaws is an interesting one, isn't it, of how best to play.
Yeah, especially with the new type, with how the underdog mechanic works now, it's...
Yeah.
I don't want to say it's an easy solution to just always play for the underdog and then just dictate how the rest of the game goes, because then even like low rated matchups can still be flipped into close games.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure. It can backfire if you just score 4 points in 1 round. But yeah, as I've mentioned, I played Lumineth. He had a cracking time. Me too. It wasn't necessarily fun for him because everything just died. But yeah, the rest of the games did go well too. We had our Slaves to Darkness play into Nurgle. Was a pretty nice game. We had our Stormcast Eternals play into Sons of Behemoth, which was also nice. Soulblight Gravelords played into Sylvaneth, which Dario was hesitant to call a positive matchup, and during the game he said his dice are literally rolling like shit. He can't turn this around, and then he won 40-20 or something like that, which is a classic move.
To moan about dice.
Yeah. And we had our Seraphon play into Ironjaws, which made the Ironjaws player cry.
Yeah, very sad.
Yeah.
Sad panda.
The other rounds for the other teams also apparently quite enjoyable. Mini Paradise got scrubbed by Team Germany. the Italians got scrubbed by the Germany
Other
support
Team
squad. Yeah. And after that round, the way that the results came out, we had a chat over lunch, the organizers and all of the captains, and we decided that for the time being, there wouldn't be, that the priority was that the Italians, who had an 8 to 9 hour drive to the event, had an enjoyable final round, and that the results or the win path for the 3 highest performing teams, Team Germany, us, and Team Germany support, wouldn't be sort of affected by the pairings for the final round. So the pairings were rearranged a tiny bit, and in the end, the team captains weren't happy with that. So we decided as a collective that it would be good to freeze the pairings for the final round, and that we would have a couple of closer matches for the final games. So the Italians played into the Belgians, the ones they had the closest fighting chance against so far that tournament, because they played in round 2. Team Germany support played into Mini Paradise, and we played against Germany again. But this time, we decided that instead of just turning it into, okay, we're playing the battle plans, we're doing pairings properly, etc., we decided to gather data. Because, of course, myself as a member of Team Austria, Dario as a member of Team UN, and the Team Germany squad, of course, for themselves, were looking to improve their skill set and look at different matchups to sort of work out which was favorable, unfavorable, etc. So we did random battle plans, random pairings, and we had a pretty interesting sort of set of results from it. We had our Seraphon into Stormcast Eternals, which was won by Stormcast. We had our Stormcast Eternals into Khorne, which is a close game for Khorne, I believe. Then we had Dario play into Nighthaunt. And finally, Jan played into Stormcast Seraphon, and myself, I played against Colin with his 1-drop Skaven on Border War. It was an interesting game. I really enjoy playing with Colin. We get to occasionally meet at the table with, like, a couple of years ago, more often than we do now, but still was a very close game. Dice were even on both sides, maybe slightly in my favor on some occasions, but in the end it was a 9-11 for Colin with the Storm Fiends, because on Border War, at one point I didn't decide to protect my home objective as much as I wanted to, and I threw away a battle tactic which could have been a more secure option. I risked too much by moving Morbheg Knights in the wrong direction, which cost me the win in the end by 2 points. But of course, we went through that game talking about our intentions, what we thought was best, and I think all of the other games did the same thing. There was no, okay, so this is my gotcha, you moved out of your territory, so you don't get the +1 or the -1 to rend on your Seraphon units. It's more like we're collaborating on this, and we're working out the best possible case to play this and what the correct evaluation of that matchup is in a matrix.
Yeah, that's cool.
And that basically was the final round of the event. We enjoyed ourselves, we had a blast, had a couple of beers, and overall, I think that was, the best result, really.
Hopefully the organisers take note then, and like you say, with 6 person, you can just set it off from the get-go like we did in Coventry.
Yeah.
So you should technically play against everybody. Obviously in Coventry, Richie's very aware of like the competitive scene, so it was set up that England would play, but not England. There's only 3 of us. But like the 2 strongest teams would meet round 5.
Yeah.
Because then that way the event like still has everything to play for. So.
This was something that I have talked to the organizers about, and they're well aware and are now taking into consideration like the feedback from the community. Overall, I think the event itself was super cool, great. It's interesting to see the approach that they took as mainly 40K organizers to a more ingrained and closely knit community such as German AOS, because everybody knows everybody and everybody's played at least once. And yeah, in that case, I think the event was still good. Of course, it was worth the journey. I had 5 fantastic games. I learned a lot. Yeah, the venue was cool. It was clean. There was plenty of options to go around for food. Supermarket nearby. Like a food truck was organized specifically for the event. There was a small kebab shop nearby as well. So everybody was set for food. And yeah, of course, something that I will now turn to, the awards. Insane. It's
in good or bad.
Oh. The results. Personally, 3-2, with one of them being a practice game loss. I'm perfectly fine with that. The second round against Team Germany was a closer round than before. I think they beat us by 2 points instead of like the 21 points before. But yeah, since pairings or standings, were frozen, that meant that Team Germany support made 3rd place. Congrats to them. We came 2nd, and Team Germany came 1st. But I do want to mention that for coming 2nd place, you get a lovely medal in silver. Very nice, very clean.
That's good.
You get a huge trophy that you get to keep because you are the team captain. Frickin' humongous. Of course. And my favorite part about the entire ordeal is in this little black box.
Oh, it's a ring. Is it a ring?
It is a championship ring.
Because that's what it is at Worlds this year, isn't it?
It says Alpine Champion. It's studded with little sparkly stones. And it's huge.
That's pretty cool. That's cool.
It's super nice. Like, I'm gonna wear this to every event I go to now. Imagine, this is the bling. And if you win or get to the podium 10 times at one of these events, you've got a whole set.
Yeah, well, I know they're part of the awards for Worlds, so it'd be pretty cool to have the first World Championship ring.
Hell yeah.
So that's my goal in 2 months' time.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Well,
but, you see quite a few of these Alpine events kicking around on BCP, so hopefully there is more of an uptake in them.
they are entering the AOS scene more prominently now. They've only begun like organizing AOS events 2 years ago, I want to say. And since then, there have been a couple sporadic events in and around Austria. But internationally, they're picking up. There's more and more people coming to these events. I can highly recommend it, since there's now real interest in running them as events for the organizers. There should be like a larger part of the community that partakes. They're looking to take on more feedback to develop their program, and yeah, it's overall a great time. They're really trying to make a mark on the scene, put it that way.
That's good. I look forward to see what they do with the World Championships in Austria. So yeah, obviously between now and then, I believe, is it just my event that you have coming up in the not so distant future?
Yes.
And then you've got 2d6
yes
teams.
Yes.
Anything else
So
after that?
there will be a recording with Toby for the club championships this year, as we've done last year. Super interesting, again, to go there and see how the German meta evolves over the course of 12 months. Then there will be the Brothers War.
Yeah,
and
Mallow's got one
this weekend
or something.
There's one this weekend, and I think there's the Siege of York later down the line for Worlds.
Okay. Yeah, so should have a decent-ish amount of events to cover. I myself, 0, like hibernation. Yeah, lists go under a rug now, all internal. So we've just had our practice weekend, which we had Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday in Derby, which was really good.
It looks really fun.
It's like the best weekend of the year. It's really enjoyable. And then I have another practice weekend beginning of April, just before list submission. So
yeah,
that is all me.
Busy bee. Which,
Indeed.
of course, we will not be covering the Team England practice weekends. As much as I think people want to know what's happening.
We just drink. That's all we do.
I was just about to say. There's just alcohol. Nothing else.
All the Warhammer gets left at home. It's purely team bonding. So
yeah.
But yeah, another team event covered. Another couple to come.
Yes.
But in the meantime, Quinn, you know what to do.
Remember, guys, like the video, subscribe, do all the important stuff, and don't forget, you, yes, you, get no extra points for being